as someone who has been doing this work for several years, what I think about the most for myself and what, gives me the most confidence in myself is creating more the greatest alignment between my words and my actions. So I know that that is like self-reinforcing and that permeates all aspects of my life. So what that looks like for me is meditating every morning. I'm very, very diligent. I have a quite a serious morning routine. That's something that I've developed, and I think that it involves meditation and journaling and exercise, and watching videos from another sort of mental coach who I have followed. Um, and for me, I think that gives me a feeling of it's like I start the day having already shown up for myself. And I think that that is how um, I build confidence as a person. And then that really translates into my writing.
Welcome to the Practical Horseman podcast, featuring conversations with respected riders, industry leaders, and horse care experts. The show is co-hosted by Practical Horseman editors, and our goal is to inform, educate, and inspire. I'm Julia Murphy, and this week's episode is with World Equestrian Games gold medalist and leaderboard-topping international show jumper, Adrienne Sternlicht. In this episode, the show jumping ace explains the roles that mental strength and self-discipline play in her career. Her attitude and drive, coupled with the help of her top mount, Crystalline, have propelled Adrienne into the equestrian limelight. The successful 27-year-old has represented the United States on some of the biggest stages, including the 2018 World Equestrian Games and several Nations Cups. How she does it, you may ask? By aligning her words with her actions. You'll hear Adrienne talk about just how she does that in her everyday life. Plus, you'll get to know more about her best friend and mount, Crystalline, aka Stella. Before we jump into the podcast with Adrienne, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this week's episode, Horse Week, and share their message. Watch, learn, and be inspired. A horse lover's dream is streaming to a smart device near you this fall. Horse Week, brought to you by Boehringer Ingelheim, is coming October 3rd to 9th, 2021. Riders and horse lovers of every level and discipline will enjoy profiles of incredible equine athletes, storytelling that celebrates the horse and human bond, heartwarming tales of horse heroics, and advice from world-class equestrians. Tune in from the barn, the office, or the comfort of your couch. Equine Network is making it easy to watch the week-long celebration from any smart device. Visit horseweek.tv for more information. Now, let's dive into the podcast with Adrienne.
So Crystalline is a 13-year-old Bavarian warm blood. I've had her for 5 years. I bought her from Gabby Chug. Gabby and Chris Chug now, they're married. And she actually grew up in Australia. So they bought her as a 4 or 5-year-old from an auction, the PSS auction in Germany.
And what are some of your most major and meaningful accomplishments with her so far?
So I would say all of the most meaningful accomplishments of my career have been with her. She is the horse that I took to the World Equestrian Games in 2018, where we secured a team gold as well as a top 12 individual finish. And that was really, perhaps one of the most important memories of not just my riding career, but my life thus far. And then she was out for quite a bit of time. Last year, we were aiming her for the Olympics. That hasn't happened yet. So she was out for about a year and a half after the World Equestrian Games with an injury. And we really took our time slowly bringing her back because she was meant to jump World Cup finals last year. And then would have gone to the Olympics, or we hope. So that was sort of the timeline I was thinking. And so then when COVID hit, McLean Ward and I, my trainer, we stayed home for the whole summer and we competed at Socrates, just national classes. And I knew that what wouldn't be on her radar. So I actually shut her down for the summer. And so this winter really was the first time that I competed with her at a top level in like 2.5 years. which is really crazy to think about because of how important she is to me. And this winter, my most memorable moment with her was finishing or being the only American and female who was double clear in the 5-star Grand Prix week 9 of WEF.
Going back to WEG, because you touched on that, what an incredible achievement and memory. Can you just touch on some more what it was like to win gold with her at WEG?
Well, thank you so much. I think the entire time I've had her, I've put her on a pedestal, which she absolutely deserves 100% and more. Um, and to me, has always been, an Olympic gold worthy horse, a championship gold medal, caliber of horse. Um, and so to be able to be with her in that moment, to be her rider and to experience that with her was so incredibly special to me because I think more than the world of her. She's my best friend in the entire world, and so is a really, really special memory. And I think it gave me belief that I could compete at that level. I could handle the intensity of that moment, and she was right with me every step of the way.
How did you come to ride her? And like when you first saw her, what did you see in her that you loved that, made you want to have her? Like you needed this horse, that she was so special.
So her breakout performance was as an 8-year-old. She jumped World Cup finals with Chris Chugg. He's an unbelievable Australian rider who is well known for producing horses. And she had a phenomenal finish there. I believe they were finished top 10 or top 12. And I think at that moment, the whole world saw her and fell in love with her, me among them. And I mean, she was always, I say, she was my pipe dream. Like, I never thought, you see a horse like that and that's the kind of horse any rider dreams about. And a few deals had to fall through with other people because everyone was asking about her. And so about 4 months later, Gabby and Chris, who are now very close friends of mine, were at a point of conjunction where either they knew that they were going back to Australia very shortly, and either, they brought the horse back to Australia or sold her while they were in Europe. And again, several other deals and other people were very interested in her, but they were also quite particular about who bought her, and they really wanted to make sure that she would go to a loving home. And I talk to Gabby all the time. We're both obsessed with her, and I think that they know that she got that, if nothing else.
That's so sweet to hear that it was so important for them, for her to go to a good home. Obviously, she has found a loving forever home with you. Mm-hmm. And can you tell us what she's like to ride?
Yeah, she's a funny combination of, she's quite sensitive, but also quite strong. She's incredibly spoiled because I just let her it's her world and I just live in it. She's not rude. She's not rude to handle on the ground. She's very polite and almost keeps to herself a bit. But she definitely has her people. And so she has me and her longtime caretaker, Emma Chapman, and she definitely is like quite reliant on us. At home, she has a bit of blood, like I think more than you would think. It always surprises me for such a big horse. She's kind of like a big, heavier build. How much stamina she has. Like she can just kind of go and go and go. And so at home, I'm always working on not letting her cheat on the flat. I ride her typically in just, a snaffle. And everything is quite easy for her. So it's really important that I'm hyper disciplined when I ride her and I don't let her get away with anything. So she requires all of your focus, but she's also very rewarding to ride because no horse that I've ridden can do everything as well as she can. And so in that sense, she's taught me a lot.
And you touched on it a little there, but what's her personality like in the barn? Does she have any quirks? Does she have nicknames? What's she like?
We call her Stella. I call her Bella most of the time. She's funny. I think she knows that she's the apple of my eye, and I think the other horses know as well. So whenever she knows my voice, often she'll nicker when I come into the barn. She kind of looks for me, and then whenever she sees me, she starts kind of like licking her lips a bit and moving her jaw. I like to think it's because she's happy to see me, but in reality, I think it's because she knows she's going to get food. So I think she's just come to equate me and eating, which she is not genetically blessed in that capacity. She puts on weight if she looks at food. So we always have to be careful of her waistline. I'm always very offended. People tell me all the time that she looks fat, and we're like, actually, she's down in girth size. So yeah, she's an interesting horse. She's quite mild mannered in the barn, but she definitely knows her people.
And you spoke about this a little bit, how she's just so good at everything and she's so talented. But does she have any specific strengths, or what are maybe some of her strengths?
I would say her greatest strength is her mind. I think she understands a moment. And I think she's very intuitive. Like, I think she reacts like very strongly to whatever she feels from me. Yeah, I would say she's the smartest horse I've ever been around. And in that sense, she has a lot of common sense. Like, she never really, I never worry about that she's going to do something stupid. She's quite predictable in that capacity. And I think that also makes it a lot easier for me as a rider. Like, I know her like the back of my hand. So I know I can predict every single move she'll make. And really she doesn't want to do anything wrong, so she's very kind-hearted. What else can I say about her? Yeah, she's just like she's like just like an unbelievable horse. Like, I've never been around something like her, and even like this morning I was schooling her and another horse, and it's just like it almost feels like you're riding a different breed of animal. She's in a league of her own.
And then when you are riding her, is there any specific work you like to do with her to address any training challenges?
Yeah, so at the moment, my greatest challenge is that she wants to shift right a bit, especially on the right lead. It's her weaker lead. It also happens to be my weaker side as a rider. I'm quite left side dominant. I'm left-handed, and I've broken almost every bone in my left leg. So um, everything of my whole left side is much stronger. So I'm always working on kind of pushing her off the right, keeping her haunches straight. And so I don't do a ton of lateral work. I'll do some moving off the right. And then I do a lot of counter canter work. She's a horse who naturally really steps up from behind, just the way she goes. So sometimes it's easy to think that you have, the hind end underneath you, but she's still trailing a bit. So I'm always trying to work on getting her working from behind, so that I'm opening up her stride a bit, because actually for a big horse, she doesn't have a huge step.
And how about mentally? Like, when you're thinking of the possibility of going to compete at the Olympics, how do you handle that mentally, and how do you prepare for it mentally?
Yeah, anyone who knows me knows that I am very interested in sports psychology and the mental side of competition in general. So a huge part of my preparation is I work with a mental coach. His name is Peter Crone. He's pretty amazing, so I recommend anyone check him out. He doesn't work with just athletes. He works with all types of humans. And I think as someone who has been doing this work for several years, what I think about the most for myself, and what gives me the most confidence in myself, is creating more the greatest alignment between my words and my actions. So I know that is like self-reinforcing, and that permeates all aspects of my life. So what that looks like for me is meditating every morning. I'm very, very diligent. I have a quite a serious morning routine. That's something that I've developed, and I think that it involves meditation and journaling and exercise, and watching videos from another sort of mental coach who I have followed. Um, and for me, I think that gives me a feeling of it's like I start the day having already shown up for myself. And I think that that is how um, I build confidence as a person. And then that really translates into my writing. And so I've gotten a little bit off of my routine. I am doing a master's program at Columbia University as well in human rights. So I've been in exams for the past 3.5 weeks. I just finished. And so, yeah, I think that this is sort of a bit of my respite, and then it's back to work full steam ahead.
Oh, that's incredible. I didn't know that you were doing a master's program. How did you decide to do that?
I graduated from Brown University in 2016, and I knew that over the past few years I've done my my other passion is social justice, and I knew that I wanted. I've always been very academically focused, and I actually really love the structure that having class and having a whole load of work gives me. It makes me be very intentional with my time. And so I decided that I wanted to do something obviously somewhat close to home. And the Human Rights Master's program at Columbia is very unique because it's very interdisciplinary. And it also afforded me the ability to not, I think, interfere with my writing a lot. So I'll be starting my thesis at the beginning of next year. And yeah, it's something that I've really enjoyed.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I know everyone's going to absolutely love hearing about your horses who are Olympic contenders.
Of course. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode with Adrienne, and a big thank you to the sponsor of this week's episode, Horse Week. Learn more at horseweek.tv. You can subscribe to the Practical Horseman podcast on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. While you're there, please rate and review the show. I'm Julia Murphy, and you've been listening to the Practical Horseman podcast.